Here we are online. So, hello everyone, welcome to my stream. Today I'm joined by Steffen, Forkmann, and by Isaac Abraham. Hi guys, thank you for joining me today.
Hi.
Hello.
I guess before even starting, I will tell a couple of words, and please let me know if in chat if everything works fine, because this is another setup that I haven't tried before. So please let us know if all is fine. Oh yeah. Oh, Tim is in chat. Awesome. Okay, so the whole idea for this like dev impression thing, that that's like the name, totally random name. I think the whole idea will be to do some kind of like talk show or maybe discussion panel kinds of things, but not really in any structured way, not in really like particular questions and answers or anything like that. In more like actually talk show kind of way, where it's more free flow and I just talk about stuff with invited guests. So today I'm starting with Stefan and with Isaac, because yeah, that's awesome. They are awesome people. So do you actually guys wanted to tell a couple of words about yourself for people, if someone watching doesn't know you? Do you want to introduce yourself or anything like that?
Not particularly. Yeah, I guess so. Steffen, why don't you go first?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. I'm developer from Germany. I'm currently working on e-mobility platform. Trying to create a platform for electronic cars, so that the cars can charge, and charging stations and something like car sharing for companies. And yeah, we're doing this all with F#, and it's really interesting, except for the last 16 days or so. We have absolutely zero data, so this is making our work a bit harder. But from the development perspective, everything is fine. Only from the testing perspective, we have completely in the black right now.
Give me a moment, because there are some complaints in the chat. No sound on my end.
What did I say?
No, I think there are some technical difficulties. Well, probably I'm like, no sound on my end. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah.
Well, but chat, can you hear me? Yeah, lagging for me too. Sound is okay for me. I can hear you now.
Yeah, the chat stopped and now it started again.
I think that's maybe something on my side of things. Maybe my internet connection is not too good today. So the problem with all this stay at home thing is that it's putting so much pressure on the IT infrastructure, which was lagging quite a bit though. Yeah, I can hear. Okay, let's assume that everything is fine. Please complain in chat if something is not fine. We'll try to fix it. Okay, so mobility and all this stuff and no data, but that's all in SafeStack, right?
Yeah, yes.
Awesome.
So so this is a pretty large SafeStack application that is we're currently working on Raspberry Pi, Linux, Azure, Windows, React Native, and Electron. So basically everywhere, trying to the whole thing that we are building is basically spawning everything that you can imagine, and the F# is running everywhere.
Awesome. And Isaac, what are you up these days? And who are you?
Yeah, so who am I? So I'm F# developer as well. .NET developer for years now, and I run a consultancy, Composition IT. So we do like F# and Azure training and consulting and development. What are we doing now? So we do all sorts of crazy stuff. Well, yeah, so we're doing some development for a couple of customers, SafeStack apps. Chris, you were working with us, obviously, the end of last year, so you know some of that. And we're doing some coaching and training for some customers to get them on board with F# and SafeStack as well. Yeah, Steffen, we're working with your brother, obviously, Tim, helping him on some stuff there in the bioenergy sector. Yeah, but pretty much a similar story, I think, to although not quite as exciting, I think, as what Steffen's saying. But it's basically at the moment we're doing almost full-time SafeStack and F#
Awesome.
for most of our customers.
You guys both forgot the most important part of your BIOS introductions. We all here in this discussion.
Like this stuff, you mean?
No. The more important, we are all part.
I broke mine and I lost like 6 discs or something like this. They're all gone.
What a troll. No, we are all part of this secret conspiracy that controls F# community. At least that's what I was told on Twitter.
Yeah. Really? Well, what's this? This is another. Was this one of your subtweets?
No. Actually, someone told me that there is this conspiracy in F# community that pushes F# community in a way they want to.
Yeah, I take the part which we're trying to push. Yes.
Yes. If we would be good at this, then we could easily then I would be probably quite a lot richer than I am today if I was able to do that.
I thought there were. Okay, so there's a couple of comments in chat. First of all, someone, Isaac, is trolling you that you said .NET developer. This means C#, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I was a C# developer for many years, more than I've been F# developer. And yeah, then I went over to doing kind of both, and now it's almost exclusively F#. So, yeah, you could say I'm a .NET developer as well today. I guess we all are, really.
Well,
but didn't you have a talk recently about C#?
I had a talk about F# for the C# developer sort of thing.
Well, almost.
No, I haven't done a C# talk for a while. But, actually,
on Twitter I saw lots of slides where you had like C#, 8 features or something like that, and
that was from that talk at DC. Yeah, that was basically just about what is complexity and how some of the things that people see in F# is often it's different to what they know. It doesn't necessarily mean it's complicated. But you can do the same if you're coming from C# 5 background and you saw C# 8 today. You probably also think it's completely crazy.
Yeah, actually, I just cannot imagine starting with C# right now. It's so many different features and so many ways to do the same stuff. This must be like for newcomers to the language. This must be confusing. I sometimes feel it's kind of the whole language design is based on the idea, okay, we have experienced developers and we want to give them more power, but it seems that they don't really feel or think about new people coming to the language. But yeah, whatever. I guess we are not here to talk about C#, are we?
Yeah. I guess you could say the same thing. You could wonder about ways, F# as well as a language. There's part of the community that are asking for features like type classes and higher kinds and kind of push it to the max FP style. And there's another set of users that aren't so fussed about that. And it's kind of an interesting decision as well as to where F# goes in the future. And we sort of had that in the past with things like F# Plus. And I don't know, Steffen, if you use that anymore. I know you used to use it.
I never used it. I was looking into it, but I had my own library to emulate type classes, and I used it for a while, but then I decided to completely remove it.
Why?
Yeah, because I don't think it's necessary. It's yeah, when I started with F#, it's 15 years ago. I was actually yeah, I'm old. Yeah, I was actually way more interested into like type classes and Haskell stuff like that. And like many other people, I built Prelude and all stuff like that. Copy everything from Haskell Prelude over into my own, and yeah, try to go completely point free and stuff like that. And yeah, I somewhere along the way in the last 15 years I lost it.
I feel we all have been there. So I guess many people doing F# and functional programming in general, they have this moment of, okay, Haskell is so awesome and type classopedia is so awesome, and you need to copy every profunctor optic that you can define in blah blah whatever, something I don't understand or I try to not understand. And then we kind of
Yeah,
come back to more pragmatic approach.
Yeah, to be fair, I did that with most features of F# as well. So I would say I did try basically everything that the language supports over the years, but I don't know. It's hard to give an estimate, but I only use so small part of the language in daily use. Almost only discriminated unions, records, and yeah, and then yeah, obviously functions and also computation expressions, like mostly task expression and promise expression. But I yeah, in the latest code, I don't have any async expression anymore. I mean, I like the concept of the async expressions, but from a practical point of view, it's yeah, you always have to convert to the platform. If you want to like deal with .NET C# stuff, then you have to convert to task anyway. And if you running on JavaScript side, then you have to like map to promise, and the semantics are different. So I decided at one point they just go with task and promise it.
Yeah, especially in side stack applications, I feel that okay, that database access is done by usually some standard .NET stuff, unless you're using type providers, but let's ignore that for a moment. So if you're using Dapper or anything like that, you have API with normal C# like .NET tasks, and then on the Saturn side or on the Giraffe side, there is also task because it's ASP.NET Core. So having async in the middle of that, it just means that you would need to transform the things 2 times, and that's like totally pointless thing to do. So yeah, I've been using tasks also in my like core domain nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of how like F# is, you know, if you go back 5 years ago, it had a lot of like async was there before task. So when it came out, there was this time where you had them side by side and things like this. And now I think it's almost a kind of coalescing where a lot of these core features are now they're becoming first-class citizens in F#, and I think it's much better for it. That it doesn't necessarily have to go its own way.
Just to answer a question in the chat, yes, you can ask questions in the chat. And yes, asking questions, if you can ask questions, was already a question. So anyway, yeah, and also I think it's more in general, not only just tasks, but also I feel, at least from my point of view, F# community when I joined the community, that was like 5 or 6 years ago, was really focused on doing their own stuff. So it was kind of we don't want to do anything. We don't want to have anything to do with the C# community and with .NET. And nowadays it seems like, so I had this point in my like talk at the last Open F Sharp, that all the good things that I've done actually has been done in cooperation with Microsoft. So Saturn running on an ASP.NET Core, Ionite got super popular when it moved to the Visual Studio Code, and that's also like cooperation with Microsoft, and all this stuff is so. I think in general we slowly move towards more cooperation with Microsoft, which is kind of funny, I guess. Do task computation expression have optimized tail calls? I have absolutely no idea.
I don't think so. This is actually pretty complicated. And I don't think it's optimized at all at the moment. But as far as I know, Don is working on the optimization stuff, so that we, when the task workflows ship in F# core, then there will be optimization. But I'm not sure if it's actually optimizing takeouts. But
I think it's allocating. It's about allocations. A lot of the work that Don's done.
Yeah, like inlining multiple task layers into one, if possible, so that you don't always start a new task and stuff like that.
But also, as far as I understand, it's just about transforming your typical set of calls from the computation expression into like state machine, and I believe that should solve the also tail of calls. At least that's my understanding, but also I'm not really sure if that will ship anytime soon.
Maybe it's working for I don't know exact details, but maybe it's working for easy cases, but I'm not sure if it's working for mutually exclusive recursive functions in tasks. I don't think that's working, but it's also not a big problem in practice, because right now I don't have recursive task anywhere, so I don't think it's.
Yeah, there's exactly a question about that right now. So should I not make task recursive? I don't think in practice you need to make task recursive. I don't remind myself of a case when I had to make a task function recursive. That would be kind of my answer. Okay.
That's one of the nice things in F# actually, that you can just write a for loop inside of a task.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not sure if it will be optimized properly, then use the for loop. And
with the mutable variable for state.
Yep, but if it's inside the task, who cares about it?
Yeah.
So it doesn't leak mutable state to the outside, and then it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you? So then another question from chat, and I will wait from time to time take those questions from chat. So yes, please do ask questions. How do you convince clients that F# SafeStack is a valid technology choice? What concerns do they have, and how have you addressed them? Isaac, you want to take that one, or at least start?
Yeah, it's I can try. Yeah, start the discussion. I think a lot of it comes down to the different types of people that we see using Safe. So I would almost classify them in three different groups. Like the one group is people that are on .NET. Maybe they're using F#, but maybe they're just using C#, JavaScript, TypeScript, and they're looking at SafeStack as an alternative. Then you have people that are using F# already, but they're kind of back-end developers. Maybe they don't have too much experience with front-end. They don't want to learn JavaScript. I would classify myself in that maybe 2-3 years ago. And then you have people that have very little programming experience that we're dealing with, people that are coming into software. And I'm talking about people that maybe have some experience of Python from a data science background at best. And we're working with them to help them because they don't need to learn everything in that regard. It's quite a simple it sounds ironic, but it's quite a simple stack. Once it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and you don't have to dig deep to get some decent results from end to end. Particularly if you're using things like Fable remoting and so on. So I think it really depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to people that are coming from that side of things, you can get results super quick. You really can. And particularly as well, if you're coming from the F sharp side, to me, it's a no-brainer because you know F sharp already. You can start using Saturn pretty quickly. And then when you're on the client side, I mean, one of our guys that joined, was it October? And he'd never done he didn't even know what SafeStack was. And within like 3 days, he was like writing front end stuff, doing back end, client side calls. And he was amazed. He didn't even realize you could do this sort of stuff. So for me, it's productivity and the ability to get that same feeling of safety that you used to have on the back end, of confidence that what you're doing is correct on the front end as well.
Yeah, this whole idea of that you make any change anywhere, either on front end or back end, and then compiler kind of like shows you whatever you need to fix your code, either it's front end or back end. Again, it's pretty like awesome. It's like in my experience, like it's hard to answer for that question because I usually work with people that are already F# developers, so I don't have such reach to the outside F# bubble as Isaac, for example, or as other people doing F# consultings. So my like core audience is F#. Is F# developers itself. And for them, the main idea is that you can reuse existing skills on both front end and back end. And especially people that, as Isaac mentioned, people that are back end developers and never wanted to touch this ugly JavaScript front end world that's messy and whatever, they just don't want to do that. Then yeah, it's way for them to start building front end applications. And I remember when Stefan had started with like web programming in general, like you've asked me so like a couple of questions about like Giraffe back in that was like a couple of years ago, and it was like, oh, that's so simple, right?
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. When I started with web development, like I tried multiple times and I always failed until like we saw this Elmish thing or Giraffe thing starting to start, and then I was like hooked and put together a couple of small apps, and today it's mostly I don't know how to say it, but the concepts are everywhere now. Like we're using Elmish on React Native to build Android apps, and it's exactly the same code as we use for our web apps, and same ideas. It's you learn it once and then you can reuse it all the time.
Well,
yeah.
Unless Microsoft creates their own MVU framework, and then you will be also able to reuse your knowledge in C#.
Yeah, exactly.
I think like maybe they will create MVU and then somehow find a way to emulate discriminated unions, because that's like super important. But I think the important step that we have here is that Fable exists, and Fable is so good in contrast even to like the transpilers that we had before. They somehow work, but Fable is like rock solid, and you can really trust it. and this makes a difference. So if I get like MVUs. I use it on React Native. I use it on on web, and we even have MVU on Raspberry Pi, which is not transpiled to Fable, which is.
I think actually that's one of the things that people from F# background, when they first start using Fable, they literally do not believe it's working. They just don't believe that they can be writing this stuff in F# and it runs in the browser, and they can make changes in like Ironide and like it just updates and stuff. They just don't believe it at first, and it's really a joy to see actually. Actually, I have an interesting story. I don't know if you remember this, Steffen. When you first showed me like what became SafeStack, we were in I think it was Dev Open Space, like 3 or 4 years ago, just after I moved to Germany. We were in the pub and you whipped out your laptop, and there was like 3 or 4 of us sitting there, and you showed me like, here, I've got this F# in. It was probably not even in VS Code. It was in what was the other IDE that we used to have? Atom, that's the one. It was probably in Atom, and you were making changes, and I could not believe what I was seeing. You know, it was like I was literally amazed, and it's funny. Like from that was like early days, and it's now like, you know, it's people are doing it for business applications. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you have like the module, hot module replacement on the JavaScript side, and you have like .NET Watch on the server side, which also works very well because it's stateless ASP.NET application. So there's nothing to worry about on that side. So that's okay. But it just updates. The only problem that I have is like after last year, I started to use a lot of Azure event hubs, and so like everything goes through the event hub to like get order into things, sequence of stuff, and I can't like hot module replace the event hubs code.
Oh, I see, because it's got the link to
so
it.
the model. So I broke my own model in this situation. So I have to do real deployment to Azure to like use this, but everything else is it's refreshing.
Also hot module reload. You need to remember that this was something like, it was not so shocking for me because I was doing quite a lot of JavaScript before I've started with Fable. Well, before Fun, and I used like FunScript before that, and then I was like old-time TypeScript developer basically since the 0.3 of TypeScript or something like that. So hot module reloading was something like natural for me, but I gave Fable talk on a couple of like .NET events, .NET conferences, and for those people that have not this experience with JavaScript ecosystem, this whole hot module reloading thing, that was really mind-blowing, because all they know is kind of like this standard loop of WPF applications, and they have like what's the name, compile and run or whatever, but it's still not so good as hot module reloading. So they were really like, that was one of the big selling points that I've done in the early days of like Fable evangelization, let's say. There's a couple of questions.
You can't use evangelism now. You have to use advocacy.
Sorry. Yeah, fair enough.
One thing I would like to add here is like in most of my day work, I was using or still using Dynamics NAV, which has like totally ancient Pascal dialect, and it's like really old school. But one of the like really interesting features of it is if you save your code, it's already running on the server, like hot module replacement without any delay. And so I was like using this all the time already. And then when I was doing like C# development or F# development, then I was like on the same F5 debugging trip. While in the old school Dynamics NAV, everything was like hot module replacement like, and then and then I saw this for the web, and then I was awesome. This is like modern language and hot module replacement.
Awesome. A couple of questions from chat. The first one is Ionite supposed to start for C# project, and can it be configured not to, or is that by design? So Ionite will start, that's totally off topic, but let's do that. Ionite will start whenever it detects either FS project file in your workspace or a solution file in your workspace. So typically C# projects have solution files. So yes, the Ionite will start for those, and that's kind of like by design. Okay, that was like totally off to.
Yeah, one of the things like that we have to investigate again, and I don't know if you already did this, is like if we can delay the save event of the Ionite file, so that if you have a C# only solution, that you don't save the caching file, the empty caching file.
Yeah, probably.
Because that's something that people complain
Yes,
about.
and
It's good now that the default ignores now, though, in the latest version of Ionide will probably help on that.
Yeah,
on that front.
this is an interesting feature. It's telling me all the time to add something that's already in there.
oh really?
Yeah, because I always have it with a slash at the front.
There's actually
and it wants it.
No, even the same. Like if you say, okay, Ionide, please add it to my gitignore file. The next time you start it, it will say again, please add me again.
Why haven't you report? Why it's not on my GitHub?
Yeah, because this is like I learned about it yesterday or so.
Let's wait until we're having the stream.
This is my bug report right now. So.
Yeah, that's almost as good as bug reports on Twitter.
Yeah, I have to like find proper repo case. I know.
Yeah, because definitely there was a bug with having some slashes. So there is actually fix inside that. Well, we've already merged, just not released yet for that. But the thing that it says that it should add. You click add, and then it asks again next time. That's definitely something that shouldn't happen. Okay, next question. What I have problem. Well, someone says that's the story of their life, that they switching to another department, and what I have a problem is that there are multiple libraries for doing the same thing in F#. For example, FSCheck and Hedgehog, or Felice and Fable React, or Simple JSON and Tot and Newtonsoft.json, and the idea is that this is confusing for the new people coming to the ecosystem. So I think yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a good thing, because it shows that we're still big enough community to actually create stuff, even if it's duplicated. But often it's different ideas for the same stuff, and what we see usually, and I have to say I'm very proud about this in our community, is that at one point often those libraries merge, because the maintainers find a way to communicate and find a way to concentrate on the same thing. So this is not happening on day one, and but at one point it often happens that they find a way.
Yeah, this is what happened with the Elmish in the initial days of Fable, right? There was two different implementations, and in the end maintainers decided to merge their efforts. I also wanted to add that yes, I definitely agree that choice is in principle good. So it's good signal that there's multiple libraries for many stuff. For multiple reasons. One is yes, indeed showing that the community is big enough and whatever. And the second thing is just the competition is pushing innovation. So the fact that there are multiple choices and people are kind of looking at different ideas and trying to experiment with different ideas, this is just good news, good for ecosystem in general. And in terms of being like confusing for beginners, that's what we kind of try to tackle with SafeStack, isn't it? Right? We want to provide this opinionated stack.
Yeah, I think there's probably two sides to it as well. It's also, as you said before, like something like Feliz and Fable React. They're basically different ways of doing the same thing. So it's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's whichever one happens to suit the way that you like to write code. And I know that like Maxime and Zaid are actually talking as well together about how they can
but
learn from both, which is good.
Those two libraries work perfectly well together.
Yeah, exactly. But
you can use both.
Yeah. But something like Hedgehog or an FS Check or I don't know Giraffe and Saturn or Suave even in the old days, that I think that what we could maybe do better at, maybe there isn't a way of doing it, is having somewhere that someone can go to though, and get some sort of easy way of saying, if you're looking at this, these are some libraries that you can look at, and these are the pros and cons of each of them. Maybe I don't know if that's something that anyone can really take ownership of. But sometimes I've seen people ask me about that. Which should I use, this or that? And oftentimes it's just it depends. But I do hear that coming up quite
and
often.
Also, in many cases, it's just whichever you like. As you mentioned, like Feliz and the Fable React or Giraffe and Saturn, it's kind of like okay, they're just two sides of the same coin, and it will work just as well as another, like the one will work as well as another. It's just whichever you prefer, whichever fits your workflow better or your way of coding better.
Yeah,
which is hard advice for newcomers.
Yeah, fair enough.
To be fair, because
well, that's why we have defaulting in SafeStack. It's not like we ask users to make every single choice. That's why when you do .NET New Safe, we provide some defaults, and I guess we believe into those defaults.
Yes, yeah. One point is that for the defaults we also have to provide excellent docs. I mean we're working on this all the time, but yeah.
Yeah, that's probably something worth me just talking about very briefly while we're on the subject of Safe with the docs and stuff. So we're actually looking right now at some of the things we can change with SafeStack in terms of the templating, in terms of the docs. So one of the things we want to start doing is really, I guess, on the one hand, simplifying the templates, but on the other hand, providing really excellent docs at a kind of granular level so that you can say, here's how to add a certain library really easily and make them easy to work out of the box. So you don't need maybe templating to do something that should just be a packet add or a NuGet add, something like this. And then also providing more sample solutions, like just simple things like what we did the other week with the WebSocket support for Safe with Saturn and things like this. Simple samples like that just get someone up and running, and then they can go from there. And we can probably create quite a few of these just with like simple recipes or common scenarios that we see time and again that will just help people get up and running. And the other thing, and this goes back to what we said before about Fable and the fact that it runs on JavaScript and it's not like a walled garden, that it actually is part of the JavaScript ecosystem, is to really improve, I think. And this was a great idea from Zaid, was that we should look at like the top 10 or 20 NPM packages that are running in the browser, the most commonly used ones, and make really excellent bindings for them. Really, really good bindings, because that's probably one of the most common things that someone comes from JavaScript says, yeah, I can write these bindings myself, but maybe I don't know F# quite so well. But if we have those things out of the box, that just makes it that much easier for someone to get started.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I really like the suggestion to make default template smaller and then provide documentation, because yeah, it seems that in some parts the template is just another victim of the feature creep kind of thing, that we kind of said yes to every suggestion to add new stuff, and I'm not blaming anyone. It's just like Ionite is full of those things, and my other projects are full of those things. So it just naturally happen in open source. because it's hard to say no to the people, but I think that we should definitely try to slim it down.
Question about auth on WebSockets.
No.
Nothing I've done. We were looking actually at just doing a couple of auth samples, but not necessarily with WebSockets. So just in general, how do you do a sort of a sign-in page, then handle the tokens and cookies and so on?
Yes, so
I'm kind of loath to get involved.
The problem with WebSockets, with authentication in WebSockets in general, is that there is no built-in protocol for that. So in case of normal HTTP calls, yeah, if something is in cookie, then it will be always sent to the server along your request, and then you can authenticate that. For WebSockets, you need to build this infrastructure yourself. So no, there is nothing built in terms of WebSockets and authentication. In terms of just authentication and authorization, yeah, probably we need to create couple samples.
Yeah, I was thinking of this, but on the one hand, it's like complicated area, and it would be good if we had one or two. On the other hand, it's complicated area, and I don't want to give people bad advice on how to do it. Or there are so many different ways you can do security and auth, particularly with single page apps. And it's like there's no right or wrong answer.
I think what I would like to say is two things. So one would be using some third-party OAuth like GitHub authentication and like Facebook authentication, whatever. So one sample for that, and another sample for the identity server, because that's what .NET people like to use, and it's pretty great software. So
yeah.
Also, we have helpers for that on Saturn. So both for like third-party OAuth and for identity server and for Windows authentication, things like that. We have samples for that on Saturn side. So it's just a matter of plugging things on the client side to have the, and also in general, like authentication and authorization in context of single page apps is complex. Indeed.
Yeah. In absence of any other questions, Steffen, I had a question for you actually, which was when we first started doing stuff together on Safe and Fable and whatnot. You didn't have too much experience with Azure at the time. Like I'm thinking like 2-3 years ago, and now you're doing quite a lot on it. It seems. How did you find working with Azure, and how do you find it now? Like, has it helped you? What were your experience with it when you first started, and how do you find working with it today?
With the cloud, you mean?
Yeah, and in Azure particularly, but in the cloud in general as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I started to look from service to service. And mostly when I started, I had huge trouble to deploy. So things improved. So what I like today is using Azure Functions and Event Hubs. So that's one of my really interesting services that I use. Basically, the data is in table storage or blob storage. If I have like a command that I want to execute, and the command goes from the UI to the ASP.NET Core server, and there's already validation happening on the client on the server, and then it goes to the Event Hubs. And the Event Hubs is basically the place where stuff is written to the table storage. Because in many cases, I want to have not concurrent writes. So everything, if I'm doing stuff for one car, for instance, then I don't want to have multiple people executing commands at the same time and having conflict in table storage writes. So every command goes to the event hubs, and if the car ID is the same, then it's basically a queue. And so this is what I use today. And if something happens on the table storage, then Azure Function is executing code on top of that, or on timer trigger or something like that. But from the experience, it was really hard to get to this. Today it's really nice, but like documentation was missing, deployment options were missing. The services, if you go to a website and just what is this? I mean, I ask you all the time, can you tell me what the service is about? Like something new, and then you say this is doing this and this is doing that, and I was like, okay. Yeah, I think that there's so many crap on the cloud, like so many different types of services that at least I don't need. It's hard to find.
Okay.
One day I want like conference talk when we have conferences again. Then I want to do a conference talk about like Azure Functions, event hubs, and stuff like that, and how to like serialize concurrent calls.
So there was a mention of Farmer in chat. Are you using Farmer?
Yeah, we want to use it, and we start. Yeah, we have like prototype, but it's we stopped that for now because other things were more important right now. But we want to like go back there and add actual services.
Yeah, you said that after I'd actually built the Redis support for you.
Yeah, that's.
You said we really need if we have Redis support, we can do it. So I did it on the flight home from Lanzarote, like 8 hours time.
So you ran bored, so that's good.
Yeah, it's true. I had this delayed flight. It took like 8 hours. So I did it, landed. I thought, nice surprise for Steffen. And he's like, oh, we changed our minds. We're not doing it now.
Yeah, sorry. No. We honestly, we want to do it. And I wouldn't have asked you at that time. The problem is right now for me, it's like we have some deadlines. And the services are already running on Azure, so I have to prioritize. And I still have to figure out how to like deal with the keyword. I already annoyed you about this topic. All our secrets are inside of the keyword, and I still don't understand how to, like, if I want to recreate my whole infrastructure from scratch, then I can use Farmer to create the keyword. But how do I get my secrets in there?
In the Farmer temp, do you mean from the other resources that you're also creating at the same time?
Yeah, let's say my whole cloud is crashed for some reason, and I want to like respawn in a different data center or something like this. Then I can have like. Yeah, I understand how to create the whole infrastructure from scratch, but I don't know how to get the actual secrets into the keyword because I don't have them.
Are they secrets?
They are only in the current keyword because our administrators are managing stuff in the world.
Okay, so these aren't secrets though that are related to the other parts of your like infrastructure. These are like company secrets.
The stuff that is like, if I have like a table storage and I create a new table storage and there's something like a connection string or something like this, then I can put it into the keyword from spawning the new application. But there's also stuff like authentication tokens to external services.
Yeah.
and they are only in the key vault right now because
Yeah.
they're important and secret, and
So what happened if that
don't
key
want to
vault went down?
distribute them. And
So yeah, you can, when you fire off a farmer sort of deploy, you can pass in parameters which can go into the key vault. So you can
yeah,
basically
but I
pass them
don't
in.
have them. But then I have them to put them in code. I don't want to them in
No,
my.
you can put them into whatever is initiating your deployment. So in DevOps or something like this, or in Key Vault. So you can get them out of Key Vault and then put them
Yeah,
into
but the
Farmer.
key vault is down. I need
Well,
to
then you're
read.
screwed. Then you're screwed anyway. Then you're screwed anyway. You haven't
That's
got them yet.
that's so important, and I'm still trying. Yeah, I know. That's the current setup. Currently I would be screwed, completely screwed.
Well, that's a bigger
I-
issue.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find a way to like fix this. So yeah, and I'm still thinking about this.
Question about Ionide and LSP.
Yeah, Ionide is
LSP.
using LSP. LSP is language server protocol. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of like the communication protocol that Microsoft came up, and it's like getting popular, and a lot of different vendors, a lot of different editors are using LSP. And yes, FS Autocomplete, which is the language server behind Ionide, is using language server protocol. So Ionide nowadays is just a really thin layer of some additional user experience. The whole magical work is done in FS Autocomplete, and it's usable from Vim or from Emacs or from Sublime if you want to do that. Yeah, the famous question about using lists as a DSL instead of computation expression as a DSL.
Yeah, I've considered it. I've considered even having both options. So that's something like what FSHTTP has. You can turn on a computation expression or lists. There's benefits to both approaches. The reason why I started with the CEs is because it was trying to make it easier for people coming from ARM templates to sort of get going with that.
You wanted to look at like to have it look like ARM.
Yeah, exactly. Just ARM, but easy. But the other thing is, you can almost do that actually now already, Zaid, because what the computation expression outputs is just an F# record. So you can actually today just build those records up yourself and just put in default values. So we could even start with something like that. So yeah, I've sort of and ahed. What I wanted to do was get to like a stable V1 and then maybe look at changing or giving alternative DSLs after that. Who knows though? Maybe Farmer won't. I know Microsoft are doing a lot of work on ARM templates, so we'll see where that goes as well. Maybe that they have some nice stuff coming up as well. Well, I know that they've got some stuff in VS Code now with some code snippets and things like that.
They're building LSP server for the ARM templates.
Yeah, exactly. There's LSP server now as well for it. So Alex Frankel's been very clear that they're investing a lot into it now. They basically let it rot for like 2 years, and now they're starting to invest in it. So we'll see.
Well, it's really surprising that they've started to invest into it when like Pulumi became more popular and things like that.
Is that really a surprise then?
No, it's just weird coincidence, isn't it?
Exactly.
I've got the same question about using list instead of computation expressions when I started Saturn those couple of years ago from Thomas Petriczek. My answer is, because I just wanted to do something cool with computation expressions.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the lists gives you ability to like dot through because you put the functions in the module, so it's kind of like okay, you can dot on this module.
Yeah,
and one important thing is like using lists became much easier recently. So it was a bit of a pain before we had implicit yields.
Yeah.
So now it's even nicer to use lists. So
Yeah, there might be something worth looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I wonder whether the tooling could
Yes.
be improved. I do wonder whether tooling could be improved to like make it once you're inside a CE to make those things appear much quicker or something.
Yes, it
like this.
definitely should be fixed in tooling. So the autocomplete inside computation expression is definitely something that should be worked on. It is somewhere on my to-do list, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting in Visual Studio. We're allowed to talk about VS, I assume here as well, not just VS Code. You can sort of you can force the IntelliSense, and then you can filter IntelliSense by methods, and then it actually does show computation expression functions at the top of that list. So you can sort of get there today. It's just not quite there, but it looks like, at least in, I don't know if it's something that autocomplete can do as well, would be to identify the scope of what you're in and then bring them to the top.
I think that actually it's something that's supposed to happen, but it never did. So there is code for ordering the functions, well, the suggestions in the IntelliSense, but I don't think it works. Or I think that Visual Studio ignores that. There is something going wrong. Because there is definitely a bunch of code for ordering those, and then the computation expression keywords are put on top if needed. But I don't think it's working. Well, it's definitely not working. So that's one problem. And the other problem is that FS Autocomplete has a problem with forcing IntelliSense on empty string. So if you haven't written anything and you just press Control Space, it won't work in FS Autocomplete in Ionite. It works in Visual Studio. So when you start typing, so you have first letter, you press Control Space, then you will get autocomplete, and that autocomplete will include the results, the custom keywords in computation expression. But it's not obvious. You know, first of all, you need to know first letter to get something. It's not everything. Yeah. So there's couple of problems from the tooling perspective that could be fixed. But also what I would want to suggest is using info panel in Ionite. You can, when you have computation expression, let's say controller, you can put your cursor on controller, you can spawn instance of the info panel, and then you will get list of all the custom keywords in the panel. So that's also one of the ways to explore the API, other than just dotting through modules or classes.
Isaac, did you already make a video for that? Because you made for like the info panel computation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not for computation expressions. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it should work. At least that's what I've assumed. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so maybe it's one suggestion for your next video.
It doesn't show it though. I'm in code now, and it doesn't show me in the info panel. It doesn't show me the methods.
Oh, come on!
Chris, you lied.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah, Chris.
I'm confused. You should report issues on GitHub.
I didn't know it was an issue. I didn't even know it supported it. Now I know it's supposed to. I can raise a bug.
I've seen it.
No, it shows the builder.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It shows the builder, but it doesn't show any of the optional keywords in there.
Well, but click on the builder so to go to the type. Because when in computation expression the keyword that you're using, like async or controller, is just instance of some type. So click on the type to get that.
I'm on the builder. Nah. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, if you go all the way back to the builder type, then it shows you the members. Yeah, but the members you can get anyway, but it doesn't tell you what the keywords are.
Yeah, fair enough. So there's couple of things. And also with the members, it shows you the state as well flowing through from the state manner. So most of the time you don't want to see that. Yeah, so the problem is that builder, like computation expression builder, is just plain class. Like there is no way from the F# compiler service or like reflection to recognize that this is anything special. It's just plain class. So it would be really hard for me to create some custom code. Okay, if that's whatever, then display it different.
So we have to raise an issue on .NET F# for that. So
yeah, the only way you could do it is
to annotate in F# compiler service.
Yeah. The only other option you'd have would be to know if there's any members that have custom operation on them. That's the only other way. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's the solution for the builders that have custom operations. That wouldn't work for like async that doesn't have any custom operation defined, or for.
What do you need to show then, though?
Well, it's also like the bind method is let bang. So if you want to like show how to use that in code rather than how it's defined, then you probably should use let bang or return bang or return or and so on. C builder is just C# fluent builder syntax. Yeah, of course. Well, the CE is just transformed into a set of the function calls. That's just chain of the function calls. So yes, it is fluent builder syntax.
Yeah.
But you can argue that functional programming in general is just C# fluent builder syntax if we assume that C# fluent builder syntax is something that should be like point of start of our logic.
F# is just link. Yeah. F# is just link. Yeah. I was actually thinking someone should do a talk actually on like different approaches to DSL, like computation expression versus lists versus fluent versus pipeline function, and what the benefits and costs of each of those are. Because we see that sort of debate happening all the time. I always see that.
There was quite a decent discussion on my on like Saturn GitHub repo when we had this discussion. I think Thomas Petricek had some good points about that. I'll try to find that and link in the chat. And what is Farmer in general? We've talked a bit about Farmer, but if people don't know.
Yeah, sure. So basically, when you're deploying stuff in Azure, so this goes back to what Steffen was saying before, you can do it so many different ways, but most people will just start, they'll go into the portal, click new website or new database or whatever, or maybe if they're lucky, they'll go to Visual Studio, right-click publish, and then it creates the infrastructure for them. But it's not repeatable, and if you want to have a dev test environment, then you have to do the whole thing again. So then people move away to this idea of like infrastructure as code. And then there's a whole sort of ways of doing that. And Microsoft's way of doing this is what's called ARM templates, which is this JSON file that you can specify, like I have a web app and I have a database, and I want to set a setting on the website that is related to the database connection string, and you can tie them all together. But it's really complicated. It gives you some really nice benefits, like you can drop the same template again and again, and Azure will sort of say, oh, right, this already exists. I don't have to do anything. Or it will understand that you've made some changes and will drop some bits and create new bits to make it all work. So it's really nice. But the actual pain of writing these templates it's really high. I mean, we've been doing this for a few customers now with safe apps and even without. And the cost of writing these templates is really, really high. So I created Farmer as just like a way to simplify this. It's not designed to like deal with every situation that you'll need with ARM templates, but like 80% of them, probably the three of us in this chat room and most of the people watching, you want an app with maybe a storage account, maybe Event Hub, and a database. And I want to create them quickly and easily and then parameterize it. So it's just basically F# DSL, and then it generates ARM templates and pushes them out. So it gives you the benefits of everything that ARM gives you, but hides the cost of authoring them in a nice type safe way.
Awesome.
And also, there's a lot of very quickly. There's stuff that you have in ARM where you can actually like do variables and like expressions inside JSON, and it's like a language inside another language. It's kind of
Well,
crazy.
that's following Microsoft tradition of putting language inside of the markup language. We have that with MS Build, we have that with Razor, we have that with now with ARM
Laser,
templates.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
that's not surprising.
Yeah. Correct. But if you actually get rid of a lot of that stuff and just say, right, use a programming language to do what a programming language is good for, then a lot of those sorts of complexities really go away. And it becomes a lot simpler to reason about. And, stuff that is quite difficult to do in ARM templates is just a for loop in a list comprehension in F#. And it's just, we do that all the time. So it just makes things a lot easier. So, yeah.
Yeah, classic ASP is another example.
Oh, good days.
Another question about Ionite. So Ionite is transpiling the client part to the JavaScript server part. So the F# FS autocomplete, which is the LSP server, is actually written in .NET. So yeah, so that's not so exciting as it could be. Well, but there's no reason. Like, we can assume that anyone that wants to use Ionite have .NET installed on their machine. So the fact that we are just calling like .NET run, .NET and passing fsuc DLL to that is not an issue. Well, not a big issue, I would say. So Ionite, how is have you tried new like .NET Core scripting? So .NET FSI instead of the FSI exe. Use SDK scripts and things like that. Is that working well?
Yeah, we were using that for your data script lately. Isaac, is that correct? We used the .NET FSI, right?
Yeah. I've switched over to that full time now.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but so basically it worked, but we had a type provider in there, and so basically every new start I get red squigglies because of the type provider. I don't know what's happening, but then after a while it recovers.
Yeah, it works for me fine. I don't know. Yeah, it's been pretty good. Actually, I don't know, Chris, if you're going to turn that on by default. The SDK scripts stuff in Ionite. What the plan is for that?
The plan is to like on next major release to change the default. We don't want to just change that because there are some small differences between old FSI and new FSI, so the change could potentially just break people. But what we've added in the latest release of Ionite is actually pop-up saying, oh, you are running FS autocomplete in .NET Core, which is default. Maybe you want also to run .NET Core SDK or the F# Interactive from .NET SDK instead of the old stuff. So we kind of just at least let people know that it exists and give them like, okay, yes, I want to use new stuff button that they can click to kind of like, because we had a lot of, there was like quite a lot of issues that people reported because they were still trying to use like old the F# Interactive with new libraries and things like that, and so there was definitely problem with discovering the setting. So
yeah, something I actually see sometimes crop up in one of the differences with Ionide and VS when it comes to data scripts is the source directory it runs in. In Ionide, it's the workspace level. It's always that. Whereas with VS, it runs from the level of where the file in the script is, it seems to be.
That's interesting.
So sometimes you have different behaviors. I'll send a repro for you. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but might be an opportunity to make the two consistent in the future.
Well,
whether that's VS.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that I need to fix my stuff because VS won't change their behavior, and we both
You never know. There's big changes happening to VS these days with F sharp integration, so maybe that would happen. Especially as the FSI is still on .NET, right, in Visual Studio.
Yes.
So yeah, that could change anyway. I imagine that must change at some point.
Well, because I think the problem is that. So you know how when you are in .NET, in F# Interactive in Ionite, it kind of like sends some additional lines. Like sometimes it sends the file name or like full path to the file and things like that. So things like that are used actually to control this behavior. So to control source directory and source file and how the errors are reporting from F# Interactive. The problem is that because in Visual Studio they have like custom integration, so the custom code to display F# Interactive, they can just make those calls silently, and because in Visual Studio Code we are just using normal terminal integration. So what we actually do is we create new terminal instance that just starts by default the .NET FSI, or FSI exe. So we don't have any control on how the things are displayed. So when we've done more things, like sending more of those calls, then it was like a lot of noise. So maybe because we've attempted to filter them out and remove some unnecessary, maybe we've removed something that actually was setting this source directory. I don't know. OmniSharp downloading the exe every time is messy. Yeah, OmniSharp is awesome project. One of the best things that Microsoft has created ever. And that would be all my comments on OmniSharp today.
Taken ownership of.
Oh well, Philip is nowadays. Have you noticed? Philip is nowadays owning at least the repository, so he's like closing issues and making discussions on OmniSharp repository. Fun times. He has a lot of fun with that. I can say there are some great issues at this repository. Okay. So it's 1 hour and 15 minutes also. Get that nail beat. Do you have anything you want to talk about? Anything more in particular?
What will happen if Liverpool don't win the league?
Oh my god. I mean, you probably will be really happy, right?
Of course. I live in Germany and Klopp doesn't win a league. I will be loving that. The man is like a national hero here.
Oh my god. He's not so... I don't understand why you think he's so bad. He's passionate.
I just don't like... He's a manager at Liverpool. I don't need to...
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I can understand that. But other than that, I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they do, but I think whatever you do, it's always wrong.
Yeah. I heard something that they might have like a World Cup style camp for like a month with all the teams and like playing a game every 2 days or something stupid like this for like 2 or 3 weeks.
That's
March Madness.
Yeah, exactly. Behind closed doors, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, that won't work because football players are not used to play every second day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm mostly interested about Champions League because I would love to see more English teams get kicked off from the competition. There's like Manchester City.
Oh yeah, City. Well, yes. I can't remember who they were playing, but they won the last game.
They were lucky. They've played last 5 minutes well.
Who did Bayern Munich have?
Well, I almost forgot, but I think they won. but
Who are they playing? I can't even remember.
yeah, it's so long ago.
Yeah.
Let me see. Where is it? I don't even know which website to look
Google.
at. So,
Yeah, Google it.
where is it?
Who cares?
Completely.
Chelsea beat. Oh, that was it.
Chelsea,
Chelsea
yeah.
won 3-0 and they had to play at home. He'd won that.
Right.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
What is the Microsoft? This is a good question. What is the Microsoft attitude towards F Sharp? For real, though, it feels like they don't really care, despite the language being so good. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Who should start?
I can start. I have a lot of opinions on that one. So I think that that F# is. So there are a couple of. I've been once told that there are a couple of different categories of products in Microsoft. One is it's a big product that earns a lot of money. Another one is a big product that doesn't earn a lot of money, but it's not killed just because it's a big product. Then there are like small product that doesn't make money, and those are killed without any issue. And then there are products that are small but earn quite a lot of money, especially given their size. And F# is definitely one of those. So F# is actually F# is making more money than Microsoft is spending on F# right now. And that was why Philip was able to push hiring another developer in Redmond a while ago. So that was when Will Smith joined the team. That's why Microsoft is right now hiring additional F# developer in Prague. And yeah. And I'm fairly sure that that F# is going to stay around. Okay, I would say it like that. I wouldn't expect Microsoft suddenly, sending all their resources towards developing F#, but yeah, F# is not gonna get Visual Basic. We don't develop language anymore attitude.
Yeah. From my point, I think Microsoft is just such a huge company. You can't say like how is Microsoft leading towards F# because that's just way too big company. There are a couple of people obviously supporting F#, and then there are like huge amount of people who, I would say, just don't care because they don't have like they don't see their work directly impacted by F#, and sometimes that's a missed opportunity. Like if you look at what we are doing, we're using Microsoft Cloud, and we want to continue to use the cloud, and we're like talking about it, and we're sometimes loud about it, so that we make marketing for the for Microsoft's cloud. And I think there's a bit of a missed opportunity for Microsoft themselves to support this more. Obviously it's hard because they don't see direct that from employees' work or employees' perspective, they don't see their own work directly impacted. So
I think there's probably a third sort of group of people as well. So you said there's like the ones obviously that do care, and there are some that don't care. There are a few that simply are unaware, or they don't. Sometimes when you have the odd tweet, and we make the odd joke about this stuff where they say it's .NET productivity enhancements and it's C#. It's not that they're trying to kill off F# or there's some evil plan that they're hatching, let's kill it. It's sometimes they're just not aware of how what they're saying sometimes comes across. And it's not meant in some evil way. It really isn't. It's just kind of innocence. And sometimes it's just that they're not aware of how some things sometimes appear. But definitely agree with what you said, Steffen. It's just such a big company. There is no one sort of message there. You have lots of different teams and different departments, and often they all have their own different sort of vision or direction or agenda, I guess. And some will, by necessity, invest more time into F sharp, and for some, it's just not important. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, and I think the difference, like with Apple, Apple decided to we're moving from Objective C to Swift, and this was like company decision, and then company-wide everything was changed in marketing and everything. Yeah, so Swift it is, and in Microsoft it's not the case. It's still Microsoft C# as like the flagship, and yeah, and they won't change it in yeah. I don't think they will change it in the next 5 years, but at one point in the future they have to decide what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it won't be F sharp. They won't move to F sharp. They will probably decide to create something different and probably find something that's easier for people to port their code to. But I definitely think that they can't stay on C# forever.
Mm.
But also one of point that I have about this, like Microsoft is big company. So I've been told, I think like a year or 2 years ago by some people from F sharp team actually, that situation is way better than it used to be 5 years ago when I've joined the situation. Because for example, the project system team in Microsoft, now when you go to them and you complain that something about F sharp is broken or F sharp needs additional feature in project system. The good example is ordering files in Visual Studio, right? You need to have like move up file, move down file buttons. And when you complain to them, right now Microsoft or members of those other teams are willing to spend their time of like work time, obviously, but they're willing to do that. In the past, like 5 years ago or like 7 years ago, they would be basically totally ignored. So the situation is definitely also inside of Microsoft, from what I've heard, changing into bit more positive. And I think Philip is doing a great job of selling F sharp also internally, not only outside, but also he is evangelizing, advocating F sharp internally really well. So that's positive.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a few years ago, probably 5 years ago, the team was shrunk almost down to one person, I think, probably after Lincoln left. It was probably just Kevin working on it on his own. So it's definitely a healthy situation in that regard. A couple of other comments there. Can F sharp community just ignore Microsoft? Are we dependent on Microsoft? I wouldn't want to ignore Microsoft. You know, they're a key part of F sharp community as well. I would say we're as dependent on Microsoft as you know. Microsoft is a part of the F sharp ecosystem. Obviously, they do a lot of work for it, and they have full-time people working on it. You know, 3, 4, 5 people whose day-to-day job is basically F sharp.
Well, and there is no any other F sharp there's no any other company that has those 5 people working on F sharp ecosystem full time. I mean, we can argue that JetBrains have 1 person, and then we can argue that like compositional IT have some, maybe fully spent 1 developer of time per, I don't know, whatever, to do ecosystem or something like that. That you can argue the same about like what I do. Well, right now I'm just doing open source full time, but it's still like, okay, I'm single developer. You don't have so many resources, and Microsoft is putting those couple of developers. And it's also like, I mean, even with other changes they do, like introducing spans, for example, this also benefits F sharp. It's sometimes pain for F sharp team to like bring everything to F sharp. So it's sometimes like difficult and time consuming, but it brings value to F sharp. So
yeah, that's the way to go. The way for us to go, I think, as a community, and I'm speaking now from when we were in that position a few years ago where it was we must do everything on our own. It's a much better way to be living on the other ecosystems and go back to safe, and just sitting on ASP.NET on the server has given us so many benefits, and on the client sitting on top of JavaScript. it's a relatively small community, but by choosing carefully where we invest our time and energy, we can get so much done. It really does help.
There is comment about Q#. I don't think Q# will be next future big language of Microsoft. It's more like experiment and just showing cool things with quantum computing. There was also a couple of other such languages, and there are still a couple of such languages from Microsoft research that just checking cool stuff. The F# community can go a long way independently. Yeah, so I think the whole issue is thinking about F# community being dependent on Microsoft. From my point of view, Microsoft is just one part of the F# community. It's really important part because it has those couple of developers working full time, but it's not like Microsoft should dominate for that reason. It's like, okay, there are just same actor inside F# community as any other vendors, as any other members of the community. That would be my ideal situation.
Yeah, if you look at the F# core package on NuGet, it's now like shared between the F# org and Microsoft. So there's like a case where we live that. So so the NuGet package was owned by a couple of people like me, and then we basically gave the account to F# org, and then now it's shared between F# org and Microsoft. The Microsoft is responsible for pushing the package whenever an update is needed, but the keys and the ownership is still shared. So there's definitely cases where that's already happening.
Okay, there's some technical detail about streaming. I'll leave that. So another question is why it is so hard to grow the community. The language is so delightful. Type providers are cool. Why it's so hard to bring more people to the language?
Yeah, we discussed this all the time, and I'm not sure if I have really an answer. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is correct, but people often say that on the JVM you have Java, which was lagging behind as a language, and then this allowed other languages to to catch up and to get a decent user base, and that we on .NET had C#, which was good enough, what people say. And so it's much harder for F# to grow, but I'm not really sure if this is true or not. There are arguments for this and against this, but it's definitely hard to grow the user base, and this I think it's. I'm not sure if people trust Microsoft to continue the project, and we saw this in the questions today. And there's always the question: will I find enough F# developers? Will I find companies that support me if I need support and stuff like that? And that's partly the reason why we started with Safe, right? To have something that people can trust, where you can see, okay, here a couple of companies support this. We have lots of libraries that are in the stack that are somewhat trusted by the community. More than one people is working with this, and more than one people is contributing to this. So I think the Safe Stack is one solution to tackle this problem, to show like we have this F#, but we have also trusted technologies around it, not only the language.
I think it's well, there is definitely not a simple answer. So we cannot just say, okay, that's because Microsoft is not loving us, or that's because whatever. Uh, I think there is like, multiple reasons. Uh, I think that so .NET has been traditionally really focused on believing into what Microsoft says. So to get users from inside of the .NET bubble, the Microsoft marketing would help with that a lot, because existing .NET developers traditionally listens to Microsoft. That's the kind of the user base that Microsoft has created for over 20 years right now. So and we definitely cannot change that. The other thing is that .NET has in general, from point of view of other ecosystems, .NET has really still bad marketing. So you go to whatever Java people or Python people or JavaScript people, and when you tell them about .NET, they're like, oh, that runs on Windows only and it's closed source and has expensive licenses and you need the full ID and things like that. And it's really hard to kind of fight those views. And again, it's something that Microsoft, I think, it's not doing enough. So Microsoft is so focused on selling Azure to their core audience that they kind of ignore growth of the platform in general. And yeah, any other comments about that?
I think you both got it.
Uh,
I think it's not an easy there is no one thing. The only comment I would say is if you do care about F sharp and you want to sort of advocate for it, don't just blame Microsoft for it. Take control of that yourself. Do something to help, whether that's doing a user group talk or writing a blog post or committing something to open source or starting your own company up. Anything, they will help, and if you care about it, talk about it. People will listen. Yeah, I will have a bit of a rant now. This sort of the one thing that I do hear. You got me now. I've started now. Is what you both said, and Christian Steinert says as well. This thing of C sharp is good enough for me, and so what and it's almost like that. If you were to use that sort of mentality of it's good enough for me, it's like, well, I'm sure you said that when it was C sharp 6 and when it was C sharp 5 and C sharp 4, and if now you went to someone using C sharp 8 and said go back to C sharp 4, they would tell you no chance, I can't go back to that, it's crap, I want to stay on the latest and greatest one. So a lot of that is, to my opinion, is about just what people are aware of and what they're not aware of, as opposed to there is no one killer feature in F sharp that makes people want to use it as opposed to C sharp. If there was, they would probably port it across already to C sharp now and say you don't need F sharp anymore. And this is kind of what I was talking about in NDC in January. F sharp isn't, to my mind, in terms of the language, is not about just what it has, but it's what it doesn't have. It's what features it doesn't have that you don't want in a language, and how it makes it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing, to shoot yourself in the foot. And that's why I'm not particularly, how should I put it? I'm interested in to see how C sharp develops by adding more and more features. And now we're coming full back circle to where we started off at the very start of this session, which is as you add more and more features into the language, if it was just the case of a language is better based on how many features it had, then everyone would be using Scala today, and they wouldn't have made Dotty, So it's clearly not about.
But that's not only about the funny thing. So I've been tweeting about that quite a lot also. So the funny thing is that it's not only connected to like programming languages. This fact that design is also about constraints and about the features that are not here, about choosing the right features. This is like normal design, talking about anything, about design of anything, architecture, design of logos, design of I mean, even heck, doing like photography and things like that. So when I hear about that, oh, we need this couple more features to be good language, I'm like, have you like, I don't know, is your like, I don't know, camera also, I don't know, the fucking micro oven? No, it's not. It's kind of like you need to choose what's the functionality. You need to choose what you want to solve, and you need to choose constraints that you put around people, like this yeah, forcing people into bit of success.
Bit about diversity from Roman, about diversity problem. All the F# conferences are 95% white male. Yeah, it's interesting. A few years ago, it wasn't quite as it is today. I think when I'm thinking back to Skills Matter conferences a few years ago, it was a little bit more diverse in that regard, particularly on male female. But it could always be better, and particularly now. I think there's not so many vocal people in the F# community that are female at the moment. But would love to see more of that.
Cons, it doesn't matter if that's different than C# cons. C# is not. We shouldn't always compare to C#. We are like independent community, independent language. We don't need to talk about any issue as, oh, what about C#? I don't care how C#.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue in our community, and that's one of the things for the Remidemi conference, which is unfortunately not happening. One of the ideas of the conference was to bring in new people, which is hard. But the format was explicitly chosen to give newcomers slots, and we tried to bring in new people, and sometimes we need to try harder, definitely. And next Remidemi conference will hopefully only be newcomers.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's a good example of what you give though, Steffen, because I think now of Roman, who mentioned that, and Deval. I mean, when he came to the second one we did in Berlin, and I remember when I met him, he was that day he'd just come from Elm, I think, and PHP, was just starting out with F#, and he was a bit nervous about talking to everyone, and I like introduced him to you guys and stuff, and now like he's got 1,000 followers on his YouTube videos, and he's really doing a lot of great stuff. So yeah, that can work, but yeah, can always do better, and certainly on the diversity side.
Also, there's point about like how Elm or JavaScript or PHP communities are a bit different in this area, and I think that's because they're so easy to get into. So it's so easy to start with Java. There's like basically no barrier to entry to start with JavaScript, especially with JavaScript. You just, open browser and start writing like code in text editor, and then you get code. And I'm not saying that and what I want to say is that if it's so easy to get new people, then obviously there will be like more diverse set of people. F# is traditionally a couple of things. So first of all, it's like functional programming language, and functional programming language is all aside of Elm, which is different for reasons, and because it was so focused since the beginning on diversity. But functional programming traditionally has trouble with diversity. And it's also .NET language, and .NET has also traditionally problem with diversity. And also it's a language that's used a lot in like fintech, in banks, and places like that, which are places that has traditionally problem with diversity. So we are sitting in a niche that is difficult, and I'm not trying to say it's okay. I think we definitely should have uh, should be more diverse and should have more diverse community. And to be fair, there's quite a lot of effort into that. So like F# Software Foundation is buying diversity tickets for the conferences and things like that. And also I think that in general, I don't think it's a problem with community misbehaving. So there are a couple of communities that has problem with diversity because they are just full of assholes. And I'm not really sure if that's a problem in F# community. Well, I don't think it's a problem in F# community. I think we have a bunch of different problems. The traditional part of our core source of developers, let's say. What is Elm Bridge?
It's an interesting idea. So like free workshops with a focus on increasing diversity. I guess you could relate that to user groups, where they have like user groups. We have F# user groups on a regular basis in some cities. Maybe that's one way to do it. I know that Ian Russell in UK in Birmingham, I think, is running like free like coffee shop sort of sessions and stuff. He's doing a lot of work on that actually. Be interesting to chat to him about how he's getting on.
Well, also this is like a bit difficult nowadays with the stay at home.
Well, right now it is, yeah. But maybe in the future. Interestingly, there's another thing called Elm Bridge that I looked up, which is a Haskell to Elm compiler, something completely different.
Awesome. Yeah, that's naming is difficult.
Yeah.
Right. So it's been 1 hour 45 minutes. I think that's enough for today. Any other last questions from the chat? I don't think so. Any final remarks from you guys?
Thanks for organizing, Chris. Had great fun.
Yeah, and good luck with your stream for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
good time to do it.
.NET 5. There's a question about .NET 5.
Okay, do that one. Yeah,
it will come.
So .NET 5 or F# 5? I know there's .NET 5 to me is just .NET Core 4, but with another name, basically, and some other bits on top of it. But basically, that's how I'm thinking. That's
the implementation in Packet right now.
Yeah. So there you go. I think psychologically it's a big step forward, obviously, because that's really it's now saying that the .NET framework isn't even part of the story. Probably there will be something about .NET Standard. I can imagine that the days of .NET Standard are very limited now. Probably in 1 year we won't be using it anymore.
There is something completely different. So there will be like .NET 5-iOS, for example.
Right.
There will be like target framework monikers like that, or there's like other name for that, but whatever. So yeah, definitely the .NET Standard is done. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And F# 5, I know there's some interesting features on there. I sent a link right at the start of the chat room. But if you basically just Google Phil Carter F# 5, there's a link to his blog post, and then from there you can go to the GitHub repo with the RFCs. I think the biggest one is probably the #r support for packages. I don't know how extensive that is. Steffen, have you looked into it for Packet?
Yeah, should be doable.
Yes, well, it's definitely extensible. I've actually on the stream a couple of days ago I've written implementation for #r FS project. So,
perfect.
Well, which is still like to be fair, the feature that it got shipped with the latest with the preview one, but the really old API got shipped with that. So it shouldn't be used. Like, I mean, it was not advertised as done. It was not so Philip hasn't mentioned the extensibility story in his blog post. So I only knew that I can do that because because I follow all the stuff about compiler.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've played with that, and it's working decently.
I think in my original prototype, even the NuGet version was hooked in via the same mechanism to hook in Paket.
Yeah.
Basically, I didn't do NuGet at all. I just did the Paket.
What a
Sad.
surprise.
Said if you want to do NuGet, just do it like this. But the original prototype had a problem. We had no idea how to ship it, really, because if you want to hook in Paket, then you somehow have to hook in the Paket hash-up provider, and this is a bootstrapping problem because it won't ship with your studio or something like this.
Yeah, so right now you need to pass, when you create a .NET FSI instance, you need to pass a like compiler tool argument with the path to the folder containing your dependency provider. And then also on the tooling side, you need to do the same when you create like instance of the F# compiler service for tooling, right? So when you create F# project options for this particular script file, you also need to provide the same compiler tool blah blah argument. So it's kind of like, you need to cover that in multiple places, and that will be like annoying to. And we don't know how to install that, so we don't know how to ship that, whether it should be installed globally on your machine somewhere, or
it should be. My idea is should be in .NET tools, like tool manifest.
But the tools are still installed in some global location, right? So.
Yeah, no. The point is you need the manifest, and then someone or something can download the package and hook in the provider.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's still like we don't know. Basically, we don't know. And I mean, to be fair, the same problem we have with F# analyzers. I don't know if you have played with F# analyzers at all. The thing that I've shipped into IONI, that you can create your own custom like warnings and things like that. And also shipping those is a problem. So you can do that with Packet pretty easily if you use like put custom group in Packet dependency file, and you use like storage local or storage symlink in that particular group to get a file locally. But if you would like to just use NuGet, for example, in your project with analyzers, we don't really have good story. So yeah.
Do you want to just give a quick shout out to Deval's
yes,
shop online?
Yes, totally. I'll do that. So on Thursday there will be another episode of F# online meetup organized by Roman and Roman. So the guest this time will be Paul Blasucci, also known as a husband of Rachel, and he'll talk about active patterns. So I'm actually really excited about that one. Paul is awesome, and active patterns are awesome. So this will be a lot of fun. And links to that are in chat. So yeah, there's link to Twitter, I can see, and there's link to. Oh, actually, Roman has put a link to the meetup page. So please check that out. I will probably do a short stream before that, hacking some cool stuff, and I will also like force all people to join the F# online. This is really, by the way, like Roman, because you're here. Thanks a lot for this initiative. It's awesome. Like that's really good thing to do. What else? Okay, I guess it's all for today.
It's a good start.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Yes, thank you for having us.
That was a pleasure. And yeah, as we've talked offline, if you would ever want to repeat that, then I'm happy to do that. And I think that people are fairly happy. We had quite a lot of people watching, not as many as F# online meetup, but I guess Scott Vlashing is just way famous than three of us together. And yeah, I'll definitely try to do another of such shows, also with different guests. I have a couple of people already. Well, you are always welcome to join, but it would.
But 2 hours are enough.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Isaac is trolling me. Yeah. I probably will manage to get maybe well, I'll definitely manage to get like Philip Carter, and maybe I'll manage to get Don and some other people. So this should be, I'll try to do that regularly from time to time. I don't want to give any schedule because I just don't know, but we'll see. And also I'll continue normal streaming of hacking, tooling stuff.
You know who you want to get on here is Kevin Ransom. You should see he's got the biggest monitor in the world. It's like 50-inch or something like this, and he uses tiny font, and he does all his coding. You won't believe this. He does all his coding in something like Notepad. I'm not joking. He doesn't use like.
Man,
Visual
he's
Studio
like working
code.
most of the time on those big 15K files from the compiler. No tooling works on those files. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, get him. He can show you how F# is written.
Okay, so thanks for being here, and see you next time. And thank you all for watching. And what else? There are a couple of links below the stream, like my Twitter. There have been like Twitter handles to Isaac and Stefan. Put on the stream, so please follow them. And there is like Open Collective link also below the stream, so please support us if you like what we do. Thanks a lot, and bye everyone.